Civilization or Barbarism, an Authentic Anthropology by Dr. Cheikh Anta. Chapter 11. Revolution in the Greek city-states, comparison with the AMP states. How was the Greek city-state born? Why was revolution possible there when it was not in earlier socio-political structures and would cease to be after the decline of the city until modern times? Because these two questions have already been dealt with in Chapter 8 of our book entitled Antériorité des civilisations négres, myth ou vérité historique, we will limit ourselves here to the essential. We have already seen, Chapter 3, that in the 16th century BCE, the 28th Egyptian dynasty had effectively colonized all of the Aegean Sea, and consequently brought this region of the world out of proto-history into the historical cycle of humanity by the introduction of writing, linears A and B, and a body of agrarian and metallurgical techniques too long to enumerate. This was the period when, according to Greek tradition itself, which had remained mysterious for a long time, the Cecrops, Egyptos, and Danos, all Egyptians, introduced metallurgy, agriculture, etc. It was the period of Eretheus, the Egyptian hero and founder of the unity of Attica. According to this same Greek tradition, it was these Egyptian blacks who founded the first dynasties in continental Greece. At Thebes, Boeotia, with Cadmus, the Negroid, who had come from Canaan, in Phoenicia, or in Athens itself, as we have just seen. The first form of government was therefore that of the colonizer. Mycenaean Greece first had the African model of state, meaning the Egyptian or AMP state. With its elaborate bureaucratic apparatus, this was the period of place royalty that was described by Homer 8 centuries later in the Iliad and the Odyssey. This foreign state apparatus was, in many aspects, very advanced compared to the structures that had been there before. This is the reason why Greece, after the Dorian invasion, was quite naturally to lose the artificial use of writing for 4 centuries, from the 12th to the 8th centuries BCE, and to rediscover it only in the 8th century, this time as a real need for development, in perfect accord with the forms of organizations of the time. Because Egypt was the quasi-exclusive teacher of Greece in all periods on the road to civilization, there is a historical solidarity between the two civilizations of which the researcher should not lose sight, if he or she wants to be scientific. We have already said that projection of the archaic and semi-legendary period of Greece on the parallel Egyptian historical chronology is often of great comparative interest. Thus, the destruction of Troy in the middle of the 13th century effectively took place under the reign of Ramses II, at the zenith of the black civilization of Egypt, whereas Greece was still at the stage of human sacrifice. It was Agamemnon who sacrificed Iphigenia to the gods of Aulus. It is believed that the Egyptians, who had adopted the chariot as a means of warfare as early as the 16th century BCE, after having driven out the Hyksos, introduced chariots into Mycenaean Greece, where they met the same fate as writing had after the Dorian invasion and the modification of battle techniques. The chariot was the principal vehicle of war during the siege of Troy. We can say that Agamemnon's tomb, the monument referred to as the treasure of the Atridae, is nothing but a rudimentary Egyptian mastaba. In terms of religion, the cult of Osiris, i.e., of Dionysus, was already known in Mycenaean Greece, for the name of Dionysus in the genitive has been found on Linear B tablet. This cult of Osiris Dionysus was probably also eclipsed during the Dark Period, 12th to 8th centuries BCE, and Greek religious consciousness remained close to any idea of the hereafter until the 6th century BCE, the time when the cult of Isis, Osiris, Dionysus, a religion of mystery and salvation of the soul, was reintroduced into the northern Mediterranean, and Greece in particular. As for mythology, the gods of Olympus, like the Egyptian gods 4,000 years before, substituted their reign for that of the Titans after a victorious battle during which all of the latter were massacred. Here also, the Egyptian influence remains apparent. The ubiquity of the structures of myths, the diverse forms of religious, social, and political organization would be tenable only if the demonstration could be based on the contemporaneity of comparative facts. But this fundamental condition is radically lacking among all authors, without exception, and they seem not to be aware of this contradiction, which nullifies the scientific value of all of their demonstrations. Claude Levi Strauss and Mircea Eliade. All the ideological superstructures at issue above and many others were present in Egypt at clearly dated times, thousands of years before their appearance through diffusion, in Elliot Smith's sense, in other regions of the planet, which had remained in the darkness of history during this whole period. That is why it is fallacious to compare superstructures of the 5th century BCE or more recent periods to those of King Narmer's Egypt 3300 BCE without emphasizing the notion of the diffusion of the Egyptian culture. This is the mistake made by those who use as a chronological base the erroneous method of glottochronology. All of the anachronisms of the Homeric poems pointed out by M.I. Finley might be explained by using Egypt as a reference. The sumptuous palaces, bearing no relationship to the rudimentary Mycenaean palaces, rather remind one of those of the city of Thebes, Thebes of the 100 Gates. And it is now known that this verse of Homer refers to the city of Thebes at the time of Ramses III. If Homer visited Egypt, and this fact is attested to by Greek tradition, it was probably during the time of the 25th Sudanese dynasty under Payenke or Shabaka around 750 BCE. And we'll stop there and continue back with civilization or barbarism. I'm Uriel Riley. Hi, Salt.